So Morgan Wallen, after a crazy year that found him becoming the superstar of this era of country music, and also found him getting arrested at Kid Rock's bar, becoming a father, making out with a bunch of sorority girls in Tuscaloosa, getting kicked off SNL, and joining the ranks of the YouTube apology video greats. He has finally released his sophomore album. It's a double album, and it's called Dangerous.
I think I'm gonna stay right here tonight, 'cause that could be dangerous.
Sophomore albums are pretty famous for being this watershed moment in a rising star's career, as the moment where you see, is this person gonna have endurance or are they gonna flame out? I guess the question getting asked right now is Morgan Wallen a veritable long-term star, or is he a gimmicky mullet in a cutoff that's just gonna be here and gone in 2 years? And judging by the fan reaction, the streaming records, and the sales right out of the gate for this record, it seems pretty likely that Morgan's gonna be around for a while. Morgan's obviously been on the channel. I did an interview with him last year. I saw him open for Jason Aldean, and he put on a really good show, but I'm just naming that to say I have met him. There is no way you can talk to someone, like look them in the eye and hear them talk about their life and that not affect the way that you review their music. They become a human to you, not just a product. And so I feel like it's always necessary to name when you've had an actual personal interaction with someone and you're gonna be reviewing their music. But also, this video is not gonna be like a straightforward review because I ain't talking about 30 songs track by track. My first thing that I would say about this album is 30 songs, or 32 if you get the Target version, is too damn long. Like, we need to get the Rent is Too Damn High guy to come on here and say,
You said it,
Album.
it's too damn
Long.
I know there are some people that really love double albums that feel like the more music, the better. What's the problem with that? I generally feel like there's not anyone I'm actually interested in hearing that much music from at once. The generous side of me would say, oh, artists want to give more to their fans. The cynical or savvy side of me says, no, the labels just want to break streaming records, just like Drake did when he released Scorpion, and it felt like this album does not need to be that long. And hey, credit where credit is due, they're breaking streaming records, so they're getting their wish. Let's table the discussion of the length of the album for now and really talk about the music and what is Morgan trying to say with this record.
I don't always wake up in the morning, pour myself a strong one.
Overall, I think this is a good, not great collection of songs. And even though there are some kind of like hillbilly, bonfire, throwdown songs, especially on the second disc, the collection as a whole is pretty downbeat. Like, Morgan is sad. There's a lot of sad boy moments on this album. And I think the theme of longing is something that I really was able to name when Seven Summers came out. Morgan is often kind of like reaching for something that has passed him by, but on this album, for the most part, he is sad about failed relationships or this girl in his past or long lost loves, and he sings a lot about them and he drinks a lot about them.
Your memory gets to burning, lean back on a bourbon. So as hell.
Like, there are a lot of songs about him drinking a bunch of whiskey. I would say whiskey and boots are probably the most over-represented words on the record. Like Me on Whiskey and Whiskeyed My Way and Wasted on You, all those songs are about him feeling sad and drinking away the pain. Or exacerbating it, because that is what drinking away the pain does. And there's a cut on here as well called 865 about how this bottle tastes like 865, 409, 1021, this number he has memorized.
This bottle tastes like 865, 409.
When he drinks, he goes back into this headspace of remembering this girl. It's by guys named John Byron and Blake Pendergrass. I don't know who they are as songwriters or if they have a bunch of cuts. I certainly do not see their names on many mainstream records, but I love that cut. Other moments aren't about drinking. They're just a little more straightforwardly sad about these women in his past. There's Wondering About the Wind, which is gorgeous and kind of existential.
Just wondering about the wind.
And then there's Sand in My Boots, which is my overall favorite track on the whole record. It was written by Hardy, as well as Ashley Gordley and Josh Osborne. And on this song, he has fallen for this girl at the beach. There's so many good details where she leaves her flip-flops next to his Red Wings and they go into the water. But in real time, you find him.
Even now I'm dodging potholes in my sunburned Silverado.
He's just sitting there dodging potholes, thinking about how that relationship's in his past and all he came home with
Was some sand in my boots.
And And that song also has piano on it. It's so beautiful. It's a lot more organic of a feeling than the production on a lot of the record. And the imagery in that song of being in Eastern Tennessee kind of brings me into my next theme that I think is really present on this, which is pride in where he's from and in small town life, and also sadness that that's not where he is now. More than my hometown, he can't be with this girl because he's not really willing to turn his back on the place that he grew up and on that lifestyle to be with her.
'Cause I can't love you more than my hometown.
And then there's Rednecks, Red Letters, Red Dirt, where he's wanting to feel grounded by these familiar things of like the church and country culture that make him feel like himself. That's another song Morgan's not a co-writer on, but for the most part, I think he seems to pick really good songs to cut. I mean, there's tons of artists like Tim McGraw or Garth Brooks.
I like that.
To don't write on most of their songs, but have exhibited over the years a talent for finding good ones. And I just counted 16 out of the 30 songs he was a co-writer on. And then this is a smaller theme, but it's definitely there too. I'd say Morgan is sad about his fame and the fact that his hard partying lifestyle might wreak havoc in his own life, but it just makes him ever more successful. He's definitely a bit disillusioned by that. The song Livin' the Dream, which ends the second album, which is a way more partying album, so it's kind of an interesting statement.
I look like a rock star in and out of cop cars, living out.
That's probably the realest lyric on the whole album. It says, "Mama don't pray for my success anymore. Yeah, but Mama still prays for me. Seeing the world ain't really seeing the world through a window from A to B. Between alcohol and women and Adderall and adrenaline," amazing line, "I don't ever get no rest. Sign my life away to be the life of the party. Yeah, to everybody else." Kind of reminds me of that random song Rumors by Lindsay Lohan.
I'm tired of rumors starting. I'm sick of being followed.
And actually, while I am making weird comparisons to other songs, in some ways the small town pride and the price of fame make this album kind of like a more brooding version of Mississippi Girl by Faith Hill.
Mississippi girl don't change her ways just 'cause everybody knows it.
Although I guess he is saying that he did change a little bit because of the fame. But the album isn't all sad, and it would be a total misrepresentation to suggest that it is, because there's a lot of party songs too, especially on the second disc, which is a lot shallower, and yeah, obviously, is anyone here shocked that I prefer the sad songs to the party songs? No. But yes, the flirtation and stuff like the title track, Dangerous, which is probably the poppiest song of the record and also the most memorable melody.
I can see me doing just fine with the Daisy Duke down, but I don't see it lasting long. I can see.
That's really present here, as are the big country street cred songs like Something Country,
Backing up 4x4 with the 2 box just to keep the motels moving.
or Country Ass Shit,
'Cause I just wanna do country ass shit.
or What You Think of Country Now.
Now you know what it's about. What you think of country now?
These songs and the I'm Sad and Drinking Too Much songs that I feel like are really where you feel the double albumness of this. Like, that's where this record feels really padded out and like they needed to trim the fat. Because from a lyrical standpoint, they're the least interesting. Like, we've heard all of these things before. We have had the images of Chevys and parties and dirt roads. Like, personally, I'm okay with the fact that there's not a Dallas Davidson, Rhett Akins, Ben Hayslip cut on every single mainstream country record anymore. But I know that there's probably a catalog of just hundreds of those songs still ready to be put on big mainstream albums. To his credit, Morgan Wallen basically addresses this head on in the opener of disc 2, which I think maybe is intentional, although the sequencing on this record is strange.
To circle of big trucks around a fire, to kicking up some dust.
But he literally just admits that these are kind of cliche songs that he really likes. I ain't breaking ground, making sound for them drop it down tailgaters, but y'all, that's all I know how to say. And then in the chorus he says, call it cliche, but hey, take it from me, it's still going down out in the country. And honestly, I appreciate the self-awareness. I appreciate that the album is basically just like, this has been said before, yes, I'm going to say it again. I need fun songs for my concerts, and I want these streams. Throughout the album, I think Morgan's vocals are great. I've always been really bullish about his voice. It has this scratchy quality that's really fun. There's a power in it too. When he needs to go there vocally, he can go there.
Tells me she loves Eastern Tennessee, yeah.
But there's also a conversational way of delivering things, and that's what people always underestimate in vocals. They think everything needs to be a big, huge, belty Beyonce voice. But Morgan really sounds like he's talking when he's singing.
Yeah, I swore this won't be different. My heart wouldn't listen.
Now, vocally, can he keep up with Chris Stapleton on their collaboration here, which I honestly think doesn't really stand out that much as a song? No, Morgan can't, and no one can, but I think their voices are a lot more comparable than a lot of music snobs would be willing to admit. Production wise and sonically, there's a lot going on here. This is a Joey Moy production. He is not necessarily subtle, he has a very in your face production style.
While my bass bowl speakers go boom, boom. 'Cause I just
Extremely percussive. There's a few snap tracks here and there that I could definitely live without. But there was a comment that Morgan made in my interview with him talking about how Joey Moy knows how to make things sound good. And I spent so much time over the past year thinking about that statement, thinking about how this guy understands the juju of what makes a song click with the public. And I'd be lying if I said that didn't kind of open my mind as well and think about how music that is meant for mass consumption, maybe it should sound a little different, a little bit over the top, but I do think sometimes on songs like Wondering About the Wind or Wasted on You, there's either a visceralness or a tenderness in the lyrics that could sort of breathe a little better with less stuff going on.
all of these sorries I don't owe you, honey. All of these sorries I don't owe you, honey.
On the whole, I think all of the songs on this record are at the very least serviceable. There's not one just true miss where you're cringing and you're like, this song sucks. Like a lot of these songs are really, really good. As a disc, I think disc 1 blows disc 2 out of the water, but I think you could cobble together just like a fabulous 15 song album from these two albums, and I generally always think that would be better. I said the exact same thing about the From A Room albums by Chris Stapleton. AJ Evans 2 on Instagram said, why don't you cut the list down instead of going track by track? And I like that idea, so let's do that. All right, going in track list order, definitely including Sand in My Boots, which I've already talked about. Somebody's Problem is pretty and flirtatious. It's our little boyfriend country moment, and that's a good song.
Somebody's problem, somebody's goodbye, somebody's last call number.
865 would definitely be on there. That song is super memorable. Whiskeyed My Way would definitely be on there. I really like that song. It feels a little more traditional, and you do have very prominent steel going all through it. Wondering About the Wind would be there. I love the beautiful weather imagery on it and how there's something imperceptible about wind. You can see the sun, you can taste rain, but wind, it's just sort of there around you, and that's the same way this girl is. I think it's beautiful. And it should be said that's an Ernest co-write. Ernest is in that same sort of post-Florida Georgia Line songwriting crew that like Hardy and Ben Burgess, who's all over this record, and Morgan are in, and he has a lot of cuts on this album and on a lot of albums. I would definitely keep Cover Me Up, his Jason Isbell cover on here, and we've talked forever about that on the channel. Seven Summers, I love. I think that song is genuinely excellent, and it has this almost like washed out 70s feeling, makes me feel nostalgic, perfectly captures young love. And More Than My Hometown is another song that's really grown on me, especially when he describes himself as a same gas station cup of coffee in the morning. Like there's no type of guy at the end of that phrase, he just is the cup of coffee. I've always liked that. Still Going Down is kind of my least favorite song on the record, but I like the self-awareness. I'm not sure on that one. I'll definitely include Rednecks, Red Letters, Red Dirt. I weirdly relate to that song, and those things make me feel grounded too, even though it's not totally my background. I want some of that bro moment on the record, so maybe we'll include Something Country and Country Ass Shit. Country Ass Shit's very straightforward. I sort of like that song. Silverado for Sale is an interesting song about how this truck holds memories of his relationship, but I feel like we already get the main Silverado moment. Like if you're gonna use the word Silverado that prominently in a song, I feel like it already happened on Sand in My Boots, and that song's better. And then I'm gonna include Livin' the Dream because I think it's an interesting lyric about this moment in his life and his fame. And then I'm finishing with the finale track, Quittin' Time, which is an Eric Church, Luke Laird, Josh Thompson co-write. It feels like an Eric Church song, but it's basically like, we gotta name this relationship is over when we say it's over. I don't even know how many tracks that was, but just now, that exercise was actually helpful in helping me see this album, for the most part, is pretty good. Most songs I skipped over, I was like, oh, there's some like value in that song, or I really like his voice on Neon Eyes or Warning, even though I don't love those songs. At the same time, I felt like, yeah, there's a lot of filler here, and we could have the same themes and just fewer examples of each. Because whereas some people might look at these songs and say, oh man, there's something for everybody, for the party people, for the sad boys, for everyone, you could also look at the track list and be like, you're trying to be all things for all people. And that makes a record less compelling. So I think I'd give this like a 6 out of 10. And maybe my album I'd give like a 7.8 out of 10 and be really pumped that that was a mainstream release. But I don't know, I liked it, and I like the character that Morgan Wallen is. He kind of reminds me of, and this is a divisive term, what I called fuckboy energy on the Sam Hunt record, where it's like, oh, I'm this like sad sex symbol. But Sam's like the downtown skinny jeans variant of that, and Morgan is gonna be more kind of the redneck version. And I actually don't think that is an uninteresting perspective. I mean, I'm excited to see Morgan kind of get the chance to actually be a headliner, figure out what makes his shows pop, what the fans love, and what he really wants to say. Because there's moments of such clarity in his music, but when there's so much of it, it doesn't necessarily feel that way. I asked on Instagram what you guys think of this record, and I think I got like 200 or 300 responses in here, so please don't be offended if yours isn't in here. And also go check out the subreddit where you can read the album thread. I'll link that down below. Here's what some of you guys had to say. Columbia James says, absolutely obsessed with Sand in My Boots, broke my heart the first time I heard it. Good taste. That is my favorite as well. There's a bunch that mention it. Kate's Collection says, first half is great. Second is Luke Bryan's Spring Break basic songs. Ryan says, I like the concept of the first half being sad and reflective and the second half being more party yeehaw. Y'all are so succinct in these messages. I love it. Jim Kobo says, great album, vibes from pop country in more traditional way. Neon Eyes is the highlight. Morgan says, really hit or miss. I'd say about 10 to 15 fantastic songs and the rest are just or subpar. Will Chapman, who that guy's really awesome on TikTok. He says it was way too long, could have been a great album if it was only like 12 songs. Daisy Briggs says, Grady is going to love country ass shit or maybe totally hate it. How did you know? How am I this predictable? Ira Haskamp says, it's a solid album with better than average lyrics. His vocal talent isn't talked about enough in my opinion. Faithy14 says, songs with new ideas like 865, Wondering About the Wind are greater than typical Morgan Wallen party songs. Jamie says, I love the mix of rock, more poppy stuff, and more old school vibes. Another Morgan says, I love the balance of topics in it. Heartbreak, love, country life, partying, self-reflection, etc. Deanna says, I think it's great. There's a lot of different kinds of songs, and you can tell Morgan is proud. Nate says, brought back the FGL vibe, but did it better than they ever could. Bennett says, the most unnecessary song was the one with Stapleton. Outlaw with Burgess was better. You know, I actually agree with that statement. I love Stapleton. I mean, I just made him my number 2 album of 2020, but I agree. A lot of people saying it says whiskey a lot. Boring how much he mentions whiskey. This man loves whiskey. A lot of comments like that. Generally, I'd say, how's his liver still functioning? Generally, I mean, truly, look at this. Sorry, let me move my ring light. These are all just like responses people have. I've never seen this level of engagement on a record. Generally, I'd say people like it, but they also feel like, it could have been more. Some people are happy to just like vibe with it, but most people feel like too long, not the tightest project, but they don't hate it. But yeah, that's my video for today. That's my take or attempt to have a take on Morgan Wallen's Dangerous. What do you think of it? What do you think are going to be the big standout hits? Is it going to remain the biggest album of 2021? I think it's very likely that it will. And so there's probably content from this that I'm going to be talking about on camera throughout this next year. But until then, I will see you guys soon with a bunch more country music content stuff. What a weird sign off. Bye.